Welcome to the All of You podcast, where we believe healthy relationships are created by growing individually and pursuing a healthy relationship with yourself.
So let's take a deep breath. Settle in and grow together. What is that movie where the guy goes, "You can't handle the truth"?
I'm terrible at this game. You're
Me
asking
too.
the wrong person. Is it Mission Impossible? No. It's not Mission Impossible. It's what's his name though? Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
It's
Risky business?
No, it's not Top Gun. Gosh, it's the one where he's a sports agent. People are shouting
Tom
at us right
McGuire.
now. Yes. Jerry Maguire.
Tom McGuire is my dad's best friend.
Well, also Tom is Tom Cruise and it's Jerry Maguire.
Yeah, easy mistake.
We're the worst people at this game. Well, I am terrible at trivia. Chloe would have been like shouting at us.
I think everyone listening was probably shouting the answer at us.
Yeah.
But that clip where he's like, "You can't handle the truth." Before we go in, well, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. Before we start each episode, we say a prayer, and Dave's like praying for the topic of the episode and God to speak through us. And as you're talking about it, the topic today is denial. And as you were talking about it in my head, I just heard the voice go like, "You can't handle the truth," because that is denial.
Yeah.
Denial is when we can't handle the truth. And we're going to just dive in to this subject today, which is very close to my heart because I am the first to admit I go into denial more than I want to admit.
Yeah, this is close to our hearts because you're more inclined to like denial, and I can't stand denial.
Yeah,
like,
you're
I'm a
like
denial
the denial
hater.
buster. You come in and you're like, let me drop a truth bomb here, and there. And I'm like, it's World War Truth Bomb 3 and I'm not into it. Can you please leave the room?
Yeah, and I think that I'm just as wrong sometimes.
Oh, man. Can't tell you how good that felt to hear.
Yeah, because I have been known to throw rocks at people's glass houses, and that's been my maturity. I mean,
You mean immaturity?
Yeah, that's been, yeah, exactly. That's been my immaturity, but it's been my like growth path. As I've matured, I have learned how not to do that, and I would say I'm still working on it like heavily, because it's so hard for me to watch others stay in denial. I'm like, if you just knew the truth, it would set you free. But also, I'm not the truth either, and like, yeah, compassion on people who are in denial. We'll talk all about it, but
yeah. Well, I think it's probably good to start with like, what is denial?
It's a river in Egypt.
It is a river in Egypt. But more than that, it's something that I think I can't tell you the amount of times I've like been talking in groups of people and like you hear them talk about someone who's like making all these like wrong decisions in their life. And they're like, man, they're in denial. They're in denial. Like we hear people say that, right? But it's not something a lot of us go, I'm in denial. We think everyone else is in denial, and it's very easy to see when they are, but it's very tricky for us to see it in ourselves. And the reason for that is denial is a coping mechanism, or I could even say it's a defense mechanism. It's your ego trying to keep you safe when reality is too painful. So you're literally you're telling yourself like, nope, that's not true. That's not the reality. Because if you were to admit to reality, you like actually couldn't handle it. And I think an easy way to explain that, if I'm going to give a personal example, which always sucks to give, but here we are, that's kind of the point of this whole podcast, is when I hurt you, I have this like core belief that I don't hurt people I love. Like I just believe wrongfully, I believe like, well, I love the people I love, so I couldn't possibly hurt them. And that belief, which is wrong because you can love someone and hurt them, not intentionally, but my belief that I'm not capable of hurting people I love keeps me in denial when I hurt people I love. So when I hurt you and you tell me like, hey, that hurt my feelings, my response, and I've done a lot of work on this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, you have.
I've done a lot of work on this, but
a lot of work, yeah.
My response used to be, if I hurt you, like, gosh, you're so sensitive. Like, it's not that big of a deal. I would just like downplay it, tell you like, it's not that bad. You're being too sensitive, like, and try to make it seem like what I did wasn't wrong because my ego could not stand that I actually hurt someone I loved and that I was wrong. Like my ego wants to believe that I'm right. And that's where denial can be such a trap and keep us so stuck and negatively impacting the people we love. And it can keep us massively negatively impacting ourselves because there's a lot of scenarios where we're in denial about like our life situation and we keep making wrong decisions. So that's kind of like in a nutshell what denial is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's so many reasons why people go into it. I almost feel like we're born in denial, you know? Like,
really? What are we denying?
Well, maybe that's wrong. But I think we're born unaware and kind of just making sense of this world. And there's a lot to learn about the world and come to terms with. And like a baby losing a parent would be insanely traumatic, right? So not that they go into denial, but we are almost in denial that that's even possible. Like, you know, like there's certain concepts of when we're children and when we're young that are like harmful. Like you wouldn't show a 4-year-old a scary movie necessarily. I mean, I guess some people would, but I think there's like a debate on what's healthy. And I mean, this is really the debate of parenting is like, do you support your kids' denial and kind of keep them in a bubble and safe? Or do you expose them to the world and there's age appropriateness throughout and everybody has a different barometer for what that is, I guess. And so we're always like, I think we're born, depending on what household you're born into, you're kept a little safer than others. Like when my dad left when I was 5 years old, I had a single mom and we moved to an apartment complex that was a little bit below, it was low income-ish, area and a little hood. And so I was forced into seeing things or being around things that were harmful to me. And it would have been nice if I would have been able to be in denial a little longer throughout my life. But on the reverse end, I'm someone that's like really hungry for the truth and doesn't like to stay in denial, probably somewhat because of that,
Yeah, this is kind of a interesting take, and I'm going to go a little like left field, but hey friends, wanted to interrupt you really quick to let you know that if you're looking to go deeper into your healing journey or just want support, I offer coaching services for women and Dave coaches men.
So feel free to go to the link in our bio and book a call with us. We'd love to meet you. And if you're enjoying this episode, please tap that subscribe button.
And now back to the show. when you study Bessel van der Kolk, the author of Body Keeps the Score, he actually talks about how when you experience things that are traumatic at a young age, which is kind of similar to what happened to you, you actually don't remember a lot of them because denial, your body uses denial to actually like keep you safe, because the memories at that age are actually harmful for you to remember. So they get stuffed down in your subconscious and they don't often come out. And that's actually like, and this is another, I'm going zig and zagging on this episode, but that's why like people, when they do like plant medicine ceremonies, ayahuasca journeys, things like that, they'll have memories when their body feels safe enough. The memories will actually resurface and that trauma will like come back up, because it's not good for us to store trauma in our body. We need to actually release it. But I think it's interesting when you talk about like your experience of experiencing things at a young age made you not want to be in denial, when that's our body actually kind of wants to keep us in denial when we experience things too young.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't really know what made me someone that doesn't want to be in denial, I guess. Yeah.
Seems like you have some homework to do on your meditation pillow tonight, if you ask me.
I mean, I don't know if it's that important to find out. I think probably when I started to do shadow work and understand what shame was when I really had like a massive heart for not being in denial. Like I before that, I was in denial about a lot of things, about my childhood or about, myself. And it was when I went deeper and started to find out like, oh, these things are keeping me stuck. This denial is keeping me stuck. But even before that, I was still prone to throwing rocks at glass houses, and I don't know where that came from, but yeah, I definitely have like a tendency to try to speak truth when I really feel like it's the truth. But I'm learning as I grow, and that can be casting pearls before swine, because, and I never really understood that verse in the Bible, and not to get like too Christian or biblical, but which we often don't here, but I never really understood what that even meant, like casting pearls before swine. What is that? And I'm realizing now it's telling someone the truth when they don't want to hear it. Like that's just not, it's going to bounce right off of them. It's not like it's wasting your energy.
Well, and I think what's interesting is I think consciously everyone would say, I want to know the truth, but subconsciously not everyone actually wants to know the truth, because subconsciously the truth is painful and therefore they go into denial, which is exactly what you mean by like you're casting pearls before swine. If someone doesn't actually want to know the truth and you're trying to tell them the truth, they're not going to hear it. The defense mechanism, denial, is going to come right up and be like, whoa, hold on, sir. Like, you're out of line here. That is not the truth. And you know what's actually fascinating about denial is, and this is where I have a lot of compassion on myself and others, is when we're in denial, we don't actually see reality for what it is, but we believe we do. When I am in, like, when I think that I didn't hurt, when you tell me you hurt me and I think I didn't, I'm not saying I didn't hurt you to be mean to you, although it is kind of mean. I'm not saying it to be mean to you. I fully, with every fiber of my being, believe you're just being too sensitive and I'm not actually hurting your feelings. And we really, really believe our reality is the reality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where compassion has to play a role in giving yourself compassion when you learn. That's why hindsight is 2020, right? We learn later that we were making the wrong decision because it comes with time, there comes clarity, and we can kind of see, oh, I was in denial back when that happened, right? But when we're in it, we believe our reality is the reality. And so, where this takes an interesting spin when it comes to relationships, just like I'm saying with ours, is I can't even tell you how many past fights we got in where, and I am going to just like fall on the sword with this one, where I was denying your reality because I was in denial. We'd get in these fights and you would be just throwing rocks at my glass house. But in all honesty, that didn't make it safe for me to go, should I question myself here? Maybe Dave is right. That for me was like, stones are coming my way. Like, let's get more defensive. Let's get more, like, I got to put on my armor. And so when it comes to relationships, when your partner is in denial, trying to shatter their glass house in an argument and like listing out every single bullet point of how they're wrong doesn't help, because they get more defensive because they feel, I feel attacked. My glass house is under attack. You better believe I'm going to be out there like, sorting off your arrows that you're shooting. I don't know. That was a weird battle analogy, but
it is like a battle though, if you think about it. And that's interesting because I don't really have good shields. Like my armor isn't really.
No, this episode you really shine as the knight in shining armor, and
but
this
I want
is where my weakness is.
I want to confess my weakness, and the other side of this is since I don't have that shield of denial, like I'm such a I think anyone that knows me would say that curiosity is my biggest strength. Like I'm massively curious at how things work and figuring out how things work, and I never really double down. I'm always kind of open to the evidence, and so I don't really have a shield of defensiveness to like protect myself. So when other people do, I kind of get shocked. I'm like, how are you not open to evidence? How are you not open to discussion? It doesn't like make sense to me. But where I'm wrong is...
That's true, actually. You're the one person that could talk politics with absolutely anyone and you don't get bothered at all, and you could listen to their side and be like, oh, interesting take. Because you are you're like, I believe what I believe, and it could be swayed at any time with further evidence. Is your position on everything.
I don't really have rooted positions, like, because I don't understand the point in them. I'm always open to the evidence, and I'm open to being wrong. I guess I just don't have any ego in the fact that I'm right on something. I believe I've learned some things and tools that have really helped me along the way, but if I learn that there's better tools, I will immediately trade in all my tools for better ones at any given moment. I will trade my entire position on politics, on religion, on anything if I see something else is working and seems more accurate. And I don't really understand why other people don't do that. It doesn't make any sense to me, like, because I don't understand the clinging of it. And so because I don't understand
because there's perceived safety in certainty.
And I don't have that. Like,
that's, yeah, it's
I don't have that
fascinating
muscle
that you don't, but most people feel safe within certainty, and that's because there's like the illusion of control. I have this, it's certain, I can control it, now I'm safe. And that, I know that sounds kind of wild, but like,
it's how we naturally work.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't, since I don't have it, what I'm confessing is that I'm also wrong, because I'm over here kind of pulling out the rugs from people sometimes And even in this podcast, maybe I say things a certain way or that kind of crack people wide open. And it can even be wrong because psychologically, now they have nothing to grab onto.
You just shattered their foundation.
Yeah. And that can be wrong. When I say throwing rocks at people's glass houses, like it's a little bit more than that. It's their glass house was what was keeping them safe psychologically. And when you don't have a framework to perceive the world through, it can lead you to some pretty hard rock bottoms if you're not prepared for it. And I guess I live in such an uncertainty where I don't hold to frameworks or anything like that. I really only trust deep down in this belief that there is a God and that there is love. I really only believe in love, and I believe that these frameworks actually are stopping us from love. So I shatter them because I believe that love is what matters. But in shattering them, I'm wrong sometimes.
It's not always loving.
And
the
that's
delivery is not always loving.
Yes, and that's been a hard thing for me to learn, and it's been a hard thing for me to admit, because my desire is to be loving. So shattering someone's denial can be unloving
when they're not ready.
Yeah.
Well, and it also can be unsolicited advice, which is
Totally.
a form of abuse.
Totally.
Unless someone is actually asking for your opinion and for your advice or your feedback, then you're just like,
yeah. And I don't think most people would agree with that. Like, that was something I wasn't aware of, is that unsolicited advice is a form of abuse. Most people are like, what? If you see, because I see this all over the internet, if you see somebody doing something wrong, you're not a good friend if you don't tell them. That gets tricky because you can also be wrong, and they may want to stay in denial for a little longer. And when we go around beating people over the head with the truth, it can be unloving.
Yeah, you know what I think of is like, and not to say that I believe in them or not, but like, those people, I was going to say at the pier because I grew up in Huntington Beach.
Street preachers.
The people that are, yes, nothing grinds my gears like a street preacher, because it's so unloving to be like standing with a sign saying like, follow God or go
the
to
abortion
hell.
Protesters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
and
believe
people,
what you want to believe, but how you tell someone makes it abusive or not. And then I go, if you're out here being abusive and a bully, do you even know God? Like,
well, they don't know. They don't
grinds my gears. Sorry.
They don't know how to do it with art or with tact and with love. And I'm admitting that I've kind of been that at times, right? And so I think what got me is understanding that if you're speaking truth to somebody, but it cracks the foundation that they live on, sure, you could convince yourself that is helpful, and it may be helpful for them, and in the long run, it may pay off for them. You've thrown a rock into their glass house, so now they can come out and live in the real world, in the truth, and that is helpful. But if they're not ready, our brains and the way psychology works, like a child, if you're a child, I borderline have done this with my kids a little bit, even, I'll confess that, like, I've been kind of hard on my kids even in some ways with cracking their foundation or their safety sometimes, because I want them to understand the real world, right? But if you don't do this at an appropriate age or when they're ready, you sometimes can cause setbacks. And then it's like, if their brain can't handle it yet, or you just cracked a truth that was really like a foundational truth for them, they might actually be a little traumatized from that event. So like someone who's like, I hate to give this example, but somebody who's been through something really difficult and ends up going to an abortion clinic, and then they see that sign of the, like, it's like that's not fair, you know, and it's not loving, and it can be traumatizing. And it's just when we're traumatizing each other to try to get each other to believe the truth, we're counterproductive. You know?
Or our belief of what the truth is.
Yeah,
'Cause, like,
exactly. Because we can be wrong too. And I think that's where the love comes in, is like understanding that my reality is not the reality either. Like, I am currently in denial about some things. I'm currently in denial about caffeine in the morning because I love a morning coffee. And if I see, like, that's a stupid example, but we're all in a little denial about some things, and understanding that we're growing and we're on a growth path, and growth isn't, it's impossible to take from someone from level 3 to level 10. And I think a lot of the world is trying to do that, and it can be mean. I don't want to sit there forever on the like how mean, but I did want to confess that my side of, it's just as wrong to try to get other people out of denial sometimes when they're not ready. So I wouldn't want to like put headphones on and make somebody listen to our podcast to like shatter their reality. If they listen, it's not unsolicited, because it's like,
they're choosing
if you
to.
choose to listen, you might stumble upon one of our Instagram reels, and sorry if it shatters you a little bit, but
So I actually want to jump in right there because I think this is really a unique perspective to hinge on. I'm sitting here saying I'm often the one who's in denial, and you're sitting here and you're the one saying I'm the one trying to shatter your denial. And because this is what so many couples, like what a lot of conflicts are about. Like when you're fighting with your partner because you have different perspectives, like it can be because one of the partners is in denial and the other one's trying to shatter their house, right? So I want to hinge here because who's right and who's wrong? And this is where I'm of the belief there's a meeting in the middle here.
Well, there has to be, in order to come back to connect, because otherwise you're on two ends of the spectrum and there is no connection. I think relationships are built on emotional connection, and moving towards each other to reach that point where like two hands touch. And when we're stubborn and I'm hard in the truth and you're hard in denial, I'll see you when I see you. Like there's no coming back until we both move towards each other.
So here's where I see it is, this is kind of an interesting take, but when we say it's like us coming towards each other, this is how I see it playing out. The person who's trying to shatter the glass house, get the person out of denial, get them into reality, if you go about it by banging them over the head, they're going to get more defensive. In order to get someone out of denial, they have to feel safe. And we feel safe when people are doing it lovingly, gently. So it looks like asking questions like, why do you believe that? How did you see this going down? I'm really curious about that perspective. Tell me more. When you can make them feel not on guard, not defensive, but like you're just trying to learn about them, and you ask them questions, they can start opening up to be able to draw out like a different perspective and get them closer to reality. So it's challenging because it's my job as the one who's in denial to get curious about what I believe and curious about why I see things the way that I see them, and to remain open that my reality isn't the reality. I have to have a heart posture of Like, and I actually used to have this on a piece of paper when we'd get in fights, and I would say it to myself, like, Dave has feelings too. My reality might not be the reality. Like, get curious about his perspective. And I'd have to remind myself that in fights that, like, we're not trying to prove who's wrong and who's right. We're on a team. We're trying
to figure out what happened.
We're trying to figure out what reality is. And by
Yep.
me just being like, you're wrong, I'm right, like, don't talk, like, I don't want to go any further into this. We can't get on the same page. So I think it's my job to remain curious and open and willing to explore myself. And I think it's your job to be gentle in how you go about being curious about why I believe what I believe. And through that, if both sides can do that work, then you can resolve without the fight and the blow up.
Totally. Yeah. And it's really easy for me to blame you and go, well, it's her job to stay in reality. So when she is in denial, she's wrong, you know? But when I can understand that it's hard for you because you're a human being,
Yes.
and this is natural, and this is like, you know, the ego kind of at play, but also our safety mechanisms. And yes, it is your work to come back to reality. So I'll never let you off the hook for staying in denial, but not everyone has as easy a time as with this, you know, as everyone else. And we that don't have grace for this have our own issues. Like, my issue is codependence. So when you're not in reality, why is it so hard for me? You know, like, it doesn't mean I'm not in reality. If I think I know pretty close to what happened and I'm not angry with you, you're angry with me for some random reason, and then you're in denial about why, and you're blaming it on something small, and it's actually something deeper. Like, why do I get so worked up? You know, I have my issues of why it affects me so much, and why I'm not using my tools for boundaries or for taking space or enjoying my alone time, instead of getting mad at you that you can't hang out because you're mad at me. Like, we all have issues. Yeah. So I think it's just tough for both parties to have grace on each other. And I bet, and not every dynamic is like ours, where you have one person that wants truth and reality all the time and another person who wants denial. But I think that's somewhat
say, like, it's not always
Yeah.
that, like, there are times you're the one in denial
Totally.
and I'm the one who's like trying to get you back in reality. Like, it's not always me, but I would say that it's most of the time.
What percentage would you put on that?
I'd say like 65-35. Maybe. What do you think? What percentage would you give?
I was going to go much higher ratio. Like,
are
90,
you serious? 90-10? This is where you are fully in denial right here. I'm going to throw a big old rock at that house. It is not 90-10.
Yeah, maybe. I don't see myself as being that stubborn. Do you think I am? You do think I am?
Did you just call me that stubborn?
No. Like, me, I'm not stubborn in, like,
you don't have as big of a need to be right as I do.
Yeah, like, so I'm not,
right,
I'm rarely in denial because I'm always kind of trying to be open to the evidence, but there are times where I might be in some denial, and I'm not trying to say that I'm not. I just think I want to say, like, those of us that are more trying to be truth sayers and speak out about injustices or things we see, like, we could be wrong too. And if that's you and you're more open to evidence and you're curious, but you're also throwing rocks at glass houses, maybe there's something to look at also inside that's like, okay, I'm causing some of these arguments by the way that I do it, or there's always something to look at and it's like pull the plank out of your own eye before you look at the speck in your brothers or sisters. Like it's really that, and the truth will set you free. But as we started, you can't handle the truth. Like sometimes people don't want the truth. And I think a good example of this to kind of bring it home in a relationship is just a simple argument going south, and you're like playing on a 2D level. You're looking at the argument as you're against me now, we're against each other, and I'm right or you're wrong. If you're playing on that level, you're not even close to solving it, and you're just spinning. The denial keeps you stuck on a 2D level. When you open yourself up to going inward and looking at the plank in your own eye and figuring out where my trauma is, or it's not always a trauma. Sometimes, most of the time, I'd say for the average person, it's like we talk a lot about trauma. Most of the time it's conditioning. It's just flat out limiting beliefs and conditioning. That's like, it has to be this way. We've gotten in a fight before over Christmas decorations. Like that's not trauma. Like maybe it was tied to something, but most of it's conditioning of like, I grew up a little differently than you. And so we're figuring out how we both do Christmas. And
yeah, we even got in a fight once over like one of the girls, we needed to sign the permission slip for her to go to like the puberty class in 5th grade. And she didn't want to go to the class. And I was like, well, of course she has to go to the class. And you were like, why? I could teach her this. And like, it was conditioning. I was like, no, you have to go. Everyone goes to this class. It's like a rite of passage. She must attend. And you were like, there's literally nothing in this class we can't teach her. She doesn't have to attend.
Well, and I didn't trust the school to actually teach her in a way that I thought would be appropriate.
Which is part of your conditioning. Yeah. So it's like, that's not that fight is not based in trauma. That's based in like my conditioning is belief system is that you must follow the school system, which since then I've kind of unpacked that a bit and don't believe it. But all of that to say, and yours was different. And therefore we're like, we're having a conflict on how we were raised and the lens in which we see
the world
and believe that things should be done this way. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a lot of conflicts in relationships is like, this is how it should be done because this is how my mom did it and her mom did it and my great granny did it. So we should be doing it this way. Right. Like, I don't know why it was from the South. None of my ancestors are from there that I know of. But anyways, all of that to say like but when we are in these fights, it can often really just come down to our conditioned beliefs that came about through our lived experiences.
Yeah, and the reason denial plays into this is because in order to make these mental gymnastics stack up, like I think a lot of religious trauma can be this way, or religious belief systems. That's why people have existential crisis when they go through a deconstruction of faith, because you have a framework in your belief system, the way you see the world, the way you make sense of the world through your psychology, through your being. Like everything you do filters through these choices, these lenses, these core beliefs inside of you. And when you shatter a truth, yeah, maybe you shatter your partner's truth about Christmas decorations, but maybe that was like a Lego that was underneath in all this mental gymnastics that was stacked up in a way where when you pull that one up, it's like a Jenga tower that falls down. And that's why it can be traumatizing, because when you pull out somebody's bottom Jenga, even though it might seem small to you, it was stacked in their mind in a way where there was a lot of other layers resting on it. And so it shatters their confidence. It shatters their ego. It shatters their reason they get up in the morning and go to work, or why they bought the car they bought, or like we make these decisions based off core values and belief systems. So all I'm saying too is like denial is terrible because you're denying other people's reality and you're costing yourself. It's keeping you stuck when you stay in denial because you're making decisions off these core beliefs that are kind of misaligned and misvalued. But when you pull them out fast and shatter someone, it's not nice either. And
well, and actually that's kind of the case for why we grow and heal kind of slowly over time.
mm-hmm.
Like that's why it's a healing journey over time, because if you just go on in there and you start pulling all your bottom Jenga blocks all at once, it's too much.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually like your nervous system is going to be so activated, like you're going to it's too much for your body to handle. You have to like slowly, like a onion, go layer by layer. And that's why it takes time. That's why we say time is your friend when it comes to healing. You don't heal, and that's actually also why some people, and I'm not saying that I do, but that's why some people can advocate against like doing ayahuasca or some of the plant medicines where like too much is given to you in too fast of a time without having the tools to actually handle it. You can have these like memories and realizations all come up. And if you don't actually have the capacity and the tools to unpack and hold all of this new information, it's harmful for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like a really random side note, but I think it's a really important thing to address and explain why healing takes time. And it's good that it takes time.
Yeah.
Remember when I used to yell that at you? I heal at my own pace.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a somewhat frustrating healing journey at times because I was seeking truth and like I wanted to build on a foundation of truth, and you had a lot to unpack that was like I got to sift through this a little slower, and letting you do that was difficult for me. Like in the very beginning when we first started healing, I got so rigid about it that like I wasn't even fun. I
You
wasn't
were
even
like the healing
funny.
police.
Yeah, I was like the healing police. Yeah.
That's a limited belief.
Yeah.
Oh, subconscious pattern. Like,
well, and for me, and honestly, for me, I needed to not be around anything other. I needed to bubble into adopting these new beliefs. I was so miswired that I did get shattered, and I needed to rebuild like on some of these belief systems carefully and slowly, but also like kind of fast because I had nothing to grab onto. Like my belief system got shattered, and you, I would say, had like more of a foundation of healthy belief systems and family dynamics and stuff that you kind of had to like replace a few here and there and switch them out, you know, which is much more like surgical. And mine was like fast. Like, let me just get these intake as much knowledge as I can and get a foundation down. And everybody has a different journey, and understanding yours, but also being like doing it together was awesome. Having a partner through the healing journey was amazing. It was less lonely. It was like, I'm very grateful for you. And I don't think I would have been able to achieve the level of healing without your support and love. But on the reverse side, it was frustrating at times. And so, you know, everybody's on their own path, and we're not stopping. Like we're continuing our healing journeys. We don't heal together as much, I would say. And, we kind of do our own work.
But
Yeah.
I want to actually add something right there, because if you didn't catch that, what we just said, or what Dave just said without saying it, is you and your partner are not going to heal at the same rate in the same way. So learn from our mistake and don't have that expectation on your partner, because expectations are generally unhelpful and you just won't. Everyone's journey is going to look different, and the speed that feels safe to them is going to look different. And so extending compassion for your partner's experiences and journey looking different than yours will feel a lot better. And we kind of had to
learn that
the hard way.
Well, and from my experience of trying to force you to heal at times, like it was actually slowing you down. So if you are finding yourself frustrated with your partner's healing progress, or like them not facing some of their wounds, or them being in denial, trying to throw the rock at their glass house is only going to cause them to cling more, and you'll slow down their process. And so you just have to let them.
And you'll hurt their trust in you as well in the process.
Yeah. And what really the trick there for me, and I'm not perfect at this, I'm still working on it, is I'll always be working on this, is my codependence. Like, why can't I feel safe no matter where you're at in your process, you know? And when I pull myself out of you, like, not in, like, that's a weird statement, but when I pull myself back from our connection and can feel my identity, like, it's literally like, wait, I'm Dave, right? I'm not Shiv. And I, like, yes, we are Dave and Shiv. We have a podcast together. We have a lot entangled. I don't want to be in mesh with you to where I can't feel me and my own independence. And so when I pull myself back, I can go, oh, I can feel solid in here no matter if she's not feeling solid in there. You know, like, I don't have to fall in the sword with you, or if you fall in the trap, I don't have to fall in the trap too. And I think so many men struggle with this because they want to lead. They want to lead their, especially men in the healing space, that want to lead their wives to healing, or want to support them, or be this embodied masculine man that, you know, I think, like, just trust her process and work on your healing journey, and you'll find she'll heal quicker just with your support as offered. Like, I have an extended offer over here. When you need me, holler. But if I'm at your beck and call for healing and support, it's actually like slowing you down, you know. Yeah. And same with kids too, and like everyone, like, we all have our own inner work to do.
Yeah. Well, that was quite the episode today.
Yeah. And if you are in denial, sometimes it's a process coming out of it.
Yeah. Meet yourself with compassion.
Mm-hmm. Before we end this one, what are like a few tips you could give for coming out of denial? If somebody feels like they're in denial, but they don't know what about, what would you say?
Yeah, I would say get yourself in a safe space. That can be on meditation pillow. That can just be like sitting on your bed. Get some time in quiet and be still, and actually tell yourself, like, I am safe. I want to be curious about myself. Like, and I'm ready to have revealed to me what needs to be revealed, and then go inward and start exploring yourself and see what comes up. And, or you can ask someone close to you, like, for that you respect and you trust, for their opinion on something specific if you think you might be in denial about it, and tell them, like, hey, I'm really fragile when it comes to this, so like, take it easy on me. But those would be the two things I would say that are a good place to start. And just like, go lightly. Doesn't have to be all done at once.
Yeah, I would say read some books to help, like, slowly kind of challenge your beliefs, and listen to podcasts and stuff as you're ready.
Yeah.
All right.
Love you so much.
Bye.
Bye.